The New Zealand mosque attack was one of the most horrendous atrocities in modern history, and the sick ideology behind it cannot be condemned enough. I encourage everyone to donate to the victims' families via the link below. But what was also disgusting was the regressive left's rush to exploit the tragedy to demonise people who had nothing whatsoever to do with the attack. Literally doing exactly what the terrorist wanted them to do, as he outlined in his own manifesto. They used the attack to create more division and hatred in society, to pour gasoline on the culture war. They're making lists of people who they openly demand be, quote, removed from society, like some kind of Maoist or fascist purge. Left-wing journalists calling for every 4chan member to be treated as a terrorist, which is like saying that everyone who attended the same mosque as the Manchester suicide bomber should be treated as a terrorist. No, that's fascistic and authoritarian. Newspapers like the Daily Record asserting that the terrorist received, quote, guidance from me. A completely libelous and damaging claim backed up by no evidence whatsoever. Websites like Zero Hedge are being completely censored merely for covering the story. Candace Owens being blamed for the attack when the terrorist mention of her was clearly a sick joke intended to frame her, because the racist alt-right absolutely despises mainstream black conservatives like Candace Owens, a nuance that the media consistently refuses to acknowledge. As Majid Nawaz, a Muslim reformist, points out, the regressive left, allied with Islamists, are exploiting Muslim bloodshed in New Zealand to settle scores with their political opponents and to grind their ideological axes. It is disgusting, it is dishonest, and it is disingenuous. The purge has begun. But isn't it a strange coincidence that the left only cares about mosques and churches being attacked when they can milk those atrocities to silence people's free speech? In Nigeria, more than 120 Christians have been gunned down or killed with machetes over the past 3 weeks by Islamic jihadists. Where's the outrage from the same leftists who rushed to exploit the Christchurch massacre? Where's the media coverage? There's barely been any. The New York Times, Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, LA Times, none of them even mentioned it. CNN didn't even report on it. 12 entire Christian villages in central Nigeria were wiped out last June. Over 200 dead. No one cared. Islamic extremists bombed a Roman Catholic cathedral on the Philippine island of Jolo, killing 20 people and injuring dozens of others. No one cared. Christians worldwide are the most persecuted, killed, and ethnically cleansed religious group on the planet, and no one cares. When Islamic terrorists attack Shiite mosques in the Middle East, often killing people in numbers even greater than the New Zealand tragedy, no one cares. It's barely a headline for a few hours and then everyone forgets about it. They only pretend to care when they can exploit the tragedy for their own agenda. And it's sick. Then you have tweets like this, which try to make everything into some kind of grisly competition to score oppression points by completely ignoring the industrial slaughter of innocents by Islamic jihadists. So far in 2019, there have been 453 Islamic terror attacks in which 1,956 people have been murdered. 4,305 Christians were murdered by Muslim extremists because of their faith in 2018 alone. A Christian living in a majority Muslim country is 143 times more likely to be killed by a Muslim for being a Christian than a Muslim is likely to be killed by a non-Muslim in a Western country for being what he is. A Frenchman is 10 times more likely to be murdered by a Muslim than a Muslim being killed by a non-Muslim terrorist anywhere in the Western world. If you want to turn this into some kind of sick numbers game, you're going to lose. The fact remains, engaging in legitimate debate about the impact of mass migration and falling fertility rates doesn't make you complicit in terrorist attacks. Just as when Islamic terrorists cite the Quran before their rampages, doesn't mean that every Muslim who reads the Quran is complicit in those attacks. Islamic terrorists cite foreign interventionist wars as justification for their attacks. That doesn't mean Muslims who engage in legitimate criticism of foreign interventionist wars are complicit in those attacks. The shooter said he was an eco-fascist who loved communist China. Does that mean environmentalists or members of the Chinese government are complicit? No. After every Islamic terror attack, the left repeats the same mantra. not all Muslims. Islam is a religion of peace. They go out of their way to emphasize the immorality of collectively demonizing a whole group of people. Yet what's the first thing they do when there's a right-wing terror attack? They collectively demonize a whole group of people. Regressive left, jihadist terror attack? Don't name it Islamism, don't talk about the ideology, understand grievances and hug a Muslim. Also regressive left, New Zealand far-right terror attack? Blame pregnant Chelsea Clinton, compile hit lists of individuals and ban right-wing pundits. Listen, I know the temptation is always there to use guilt by association to smear your political adversaries. I know because I used to do it myself, and then I stopped because I realized it was a zero-sum game. I realized it was disingenuous and callous. I'm not going to cite the terror attack in Utrecht today to collectively demonize anyone apart from the individual lunatic responsible. But the left will never stop doing that. And that's not because they genuinely care about Muslims or other religious minorities. They don't. Their complete boredom and silence in the face of mosque attacks in the Middle East, church attacks in the Middle East, and attacks on Christians proves that. They only care about one thing: power. Obtaining power by silencing their enemies. And while claiming they have the moral high ground, that's exactly what they'll continue to do. You don't have the moral high ground. And how dare the media blame people like me, the same media that lobbied for disastrous interventions in Iraq, Libya, Syria, that cost hundreds of thousands of innocent Muslim lives. Interventions that caused the international migrant crisis. Interventions that I opposed in defense of Muslims living in those countries at every turn. Right-wing terrorism is disgusting. Islamic terrorism is disgusting. Both are massive problems. But what's also disgusting is your frenzied obsession with exploiting tragedy to further your own fascist political agenda every single time.
Years ago, InfoWars Life created the powerful MycoZX formula to help you combat internal yeast. As the years went on and more toxins were pumped into the environment, our team knew we had to create a bigger and better formula to help support your gut health. MycoZX Plus is the result of the search for that formula, a unique natural formula designed to support the body's natural cleansing of yeast and fungal organisms. There's no better product to help your body fight back. MycoZX Plus helps support a healthy microbial balance in the body, supports your digestive tract, and addresses the intestinal yeast that can cause you problems if it goes unchecked. Powered by an impressive list of ingredients, including grapefruit seed extract, pau d'arco bark, and grapeseed extract, our formula is fueled by ingredients that stood the test of time as powerful microbalancing properties. Pick up a bottle of the new and improved MycoZX Plus today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.